I remember the exact sound of the knocking. It wasn't frantic, it wasn't aggressive, it was slow, deliberate, like whoever was on the other side already owned a door and was just being polite about reminding me. It was 5:02 a.m. I know that because I had woken up at 4:47, like I had been doing every morning since my dad died 3 weeks earlier. My body just refused to sleep past dawn in that house without him. The silence felt different, heavy, like the walls were waiting for him to clear his throat in the kitchen or turn on the coffee maker. Instead, there was that knock. I pulled on a hoodie and walked barefoot down the hallway of the house I grew up in. The hardwood floors were cold. The air smelled faintly like the lilies people had sent after the funeral. I hadn't thrown them out yet. When I opened the door, my sister Lauren was standing there. Lauren doesn't do 5 a.m. She's the kind of person who schedules brunches at places with valet parking and calls 10 a.m. inhuman. Her hair was pulled back tight, not messy like she'd just woken up. Full makeup, camel coat, leather tote bag on her shoulder. She looked like she was heading into a board meeting. Behind her, parked crookedly along the curb, was a black SUV I didn't recognize. "Morning," she said. She didn't hug me. I remember that detail like it's burned into my brain. 3 weeks after we buried our father, and she didn't hug me. "What are you doing here?" I asked. My voice sounded thick, like I had gravel in my throat. She stepped past me without asking and walked straight into the house. "I think we need to talk." That's when I saw him. A man stepped out from behind the SUV, late 30s, maybe early 40s, navy suit, crisp white shirt, carrying a leather briefcase. He wasn't family, he wasn't a friend, he wasn't someone I'd ever seen at holidays or cookouts or graduations, and he was walking toward my house like he had an appointment. My stomach tightened. Lauren stood in the middle of the living room, looking around like she was assessing inventory. Her heels clicked against the floor. That sound felt invasive. This house had always been sock feet, bare feet, dad in slippers kind of energy. The suited guy came in and closed the door behind him. "Daniel," Lauren said, folding her arms. "This is Mark Coldwell. He's representing me." Representing. The word didn't land at first. "Representing you for what?" I asked. Mark gave me a thin, professional smile. "Good morning, Daniel." I didn't respond. Lauren inhaled slowly, like she'd practiced the speech. "You need to pack your things within 48 hours, she said. "This house is ours now." It didn't even make sense. "Ours," I repeated. "Lauren, what are you talking about?" "Dad updated the will 6 months ago," she said flatly. "He left everything to both of us, 50-50, which means this property is jointly owned. I've decided I'm selling." My ears were ringing. "That's not," I shook my head. "That's not what he told me." She gave me a look I hadn't seen in years, not since we were kids fighting over the remote. It was cold, detached. "Well, that's what he signed." Mark opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. He placed it gently on the coffee table, the same coffee table my dad built in his garage 20 years ago. "We're not trying to make this difficult," Mark said calmly, "but legally, Miss Reynolds has the right to force a sale. If you don't agree to list the property voluntarily, we can pursue partition." I stared at the folder but didn't touch it. "Dad wouldn't do that," I said quietly. Lauren's jaw tightened. Dad did do that. The room felt smaller, like the walls were inching inward. "I moved back here to take care of him," I said. "You remember that, right? I left my apartment in Denver. I left my job." "Oh, here we go," she snapped. "I was here," I said, louder now, "for the chemo, for the nights he couldn't breathe, for the hospital runs at 2 a.m. Where were you?" She flinched, but only slightly. "I was working," she said, "to pay for things you couldn't." That hit hard. "I drained my savings," I shot back. "And I wired money every month," she said. "You think those medical bills magically handled themselves?" Mark cleared his throat softly, like he was watching a tennis match that was getting too heated. "This isn't about who loved him more," he said. But it felt exactly like that. Lauren stepped closer to me. "I'm not asking for your permission," she said. "I'm telling you what's happening. I already have a buyer interested." "A buyer?" My voice cracked. "You already found a buyer?" She didn't answer immediately, and in that half-second pause, something shifted inside me. "You've been planning this," I said. She looked away first. That was my answer. "Since when?" I asked. "Since before he passed," she said quietly. It felt like someone punched me in the chest. "You were planning to sell the house while he was still alive?" "It wasn't like that," she said quickly. "He knew the market was high.
He didn't want the property to become a burden. That's not what I'm asking, I said. Her eyes hardened again. He signed the will in July. July? That was the month I drove him to every radiation appointment. The month he could barely walk without holding onto my arm. The month he cried in the kitchen because he thought he was dying before finishing the deck renovation. Why didn't he tell me? I whispered. Lauren didn't answer, and that silence was louder than anything she could have said. Mark slid the folder slightly closer to me. You'll want to review this, he said. We're prepared to move quickly. I finally opened it. It was real. His signature, the lawyer's seal, everything notarized. 50-50, force of sale clause included, 48 hours to vacate before listing. My hands were shaking so badly the pages rustled like dry leaves. You can buy me out, Lauren said. Her tone softened slightly, but it felt rehearsed. Reasonable? I laughed, but it sounded wrong. Unhinged. You show up at 5 a.m. with a lawyer and tell me I have 2 days to leave my home? It's not just your home, she said. But it was. Every scar on those kitchen cabinets, every pencil mark on the wall where Dad tracked our height, the dent in the hallway drywall from when I threw a baseball too hard indoors at 14. This wasn't just property. It was the last place he was alive. You always thought you deserved more, I said quietly. Her eyes flashed. That's not fair. No, I said. What's not fair is you disappearing for 10 years, showing up for holidays like a guest, and now acting like you have equal claim to what I carried. Her face went pale. I was building my life, she said, and I was here watching him die. The words hung between us. For a second, I thought she might cry. Instead, she picked up her tote bag. You have 48 hours, she said. After that, we proceed legally. She turned and walked toward the door. Mark lingered behind. I'd advise you to consult your own attorney, he said gently. Time matters. Then they were gone. The door shut. And just like that, the house felt different. Not quiet anymore. Occupied, threatened. I stood in the living room alone, holding the copy of my father's will, and for the first time since his funeral, I felt something stronger than grief. I felt betrayal, not just from Lauren, from him.
Because somewhere in the last 6 months of his life, he made a decision he never told me about, and I didn't know why. Not yet. I didn't sleep that night. Not that I'd been sleeping much anyway, but after Lauren left, it felt impossible. The house felt like it had already started slipping through my fingers. Every creak in the ceiling, every hum of the refrigerator felt temporary, like I was staying in a rental of my own childhood. I sat at the kitchen table with the will spread out in front of me for hours. I read it so many times the words blurred. July 18th. That date kept staring back at me. July 18th was a Tuesday. I remember because that was the day Dad threw up in the car on the way home from radiation. He'd been embarrassed, apologizing over and over like he'd done something wrong. I'd cleaned it up in the driveway while he went inside to shower. Lauren had called that night, I think. A quick check-in. 5 minutes, maybe? Had he told her then? Had they already discussed the will? I felt stupid, naive, like I'd been the loyal dog in the room while the adults made real decisions. Around noon, I called the law firm listed on the document. A receptionist answered with that polished, neutral tone people use when they deal in paperwork that ruins lives. I asked for the attorney who notarized the will. He wasn't available. Of course he wasn't. I left my name, said I was Daniel Reynolds, son of Thomas Reynolds. My voice cracked when I said son. I hated that word suddenly. It felt like a technicality. Then I called my friend Marcus. Marcus and I have known each other since high school. He's the kind of guy who doesn't panic, works in commercial real estate downtown, knows contracts, numbers, how things actually function. He answered on the third ring. Yo, he said, you alive? Barely, I said. I told him everything. The 5 a.m. knock, the lawyer, the 48 hours. There was a long silence on the other end. She showed up with an attorney? He asked finally. Yeah, that's aggressive. That's Lauren. He exhaled slowly. You need your own lawyer, today. I don't have money for that. You need to find it, he said bluntly, because if she's serious about forcing a sale, you're on a clock. I rubbed my face with both hands. She said I can buy her out. Can you? I laughed. It sounded hollow. The house is worth what? 800 grand now? Maybe more? I don't have $400,000, Marcus. Then you either refinance or you sell. Sell. The word tasted metallic. After I hung up, I walked through the house, slowly, like I was already saying goodbye.
Dad's recliner was still angled toward the TV, remote tucked into the side pocket. His reading glasses sat on the little table next to it. I picked them up. The lenses were smudged. He'd always meant to clean them properly and never did. In the hallway closet, his jacket still hung in a neat row. Flannel, denim, the old brown leather one he wore every fall. I pressed my face into the shoulder of it and inhaled. The scent was fading, but it was still him. And underneath the grief, underneath the anger at Lauren, something else was starting to creep in. Doubt. Why hadn't he told me? Dad wasn't secretive. He wasn't manipulative. He was blunt to a fault. If he didn't like something, you knew. If he made a decision, he stood by it. So why update the will and say nothing? By late afternoon, I couldn't sit still anymore. I drove to Lauren's condo downtown. She lives in one of those high-rise buildings with floor-to-ceiling windows and a doorman who looks at you like you're a potential problem. She didn't expect me, but she wasn't surprised either. When she opened the door, she didn't look polished anymore. The coat was gone, hair down, sweatpants. She looked tired. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "We need to talk without your lawyer." She hesitated, then stepped aside. Her place smelled like eucalyptus candles and expensive cleaning products. Everything was white or gray. No clutter, no history. I stood near the kitchen island while she leaned against the counter across from me. "Why didn't he tell me?" I asked again. She stared at the marble countertop for a second before answering. "I don't know." "That's not good enough." She looked up, frustration flashing in her eyes. "You think I orchestrated this? I think you knew." "Of course I knew. I was there when he signed it." That made my stomach drop. "You were there?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because he asked me to be." I felt like the floor tilted slightly. "When?" I asked. "In July." "Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice sharpened. "Because he didn't want you to know." That hit harder than anything else. "Why?" I repeated. She ran a hand through her hair. For the first time since this started, she looked unsure. "He thought you'd fight him," she said quietly. "Fight him about what?" "About selling eventually. About not turning the house into a shrine." The word shrine stung. "I was taking care of him." "I know," she said, "but you were also stuck." "Stuck," I laughed bitterly. "I moved home because he was dying." "You were already drifting before that," she shot back. "You quit your job before the diagnosis, Daniel." That wasn't true, or maybe it was partly true. I had been burned out. I had been talking about leaving Denver for months before the cancer news hit. "He didn't want you tying your entire identity to that house," she said. I felt heat rising in my chest. So his solution was to blindside me after he died. That wasn't the intention. Then what was? She hesitated, and that hesitation felt loaded. "There's something else, isn't there?" I asked. Her eyes flicked away. "Lauren." She crossed her arms, defensive now. "He was worried about the debt." "What debt?" She went very still. "What debt?" I repeated, slower. "The medical bills," she said. "The second round of treatment wasn't fully covered." "I know that. It was more than you think." "How much?" She didn't answer immediately. "How much?" I demanded. 230,000, she said. The number felt unreal, like Monopoly money. "That's not possible." "It is," she said. "I've been helping cover it. You said you wired money. You never said it was that much. Because I didn't want to make it transactional." I leaned back against the counter, trying to breathe. "Is that why you want to sell?" I asked. "To recover what you paid?" She looked offended. "No. I want to sell because neither of us can afford to keep it. Property taxes alone are insane. Repairs, utilities. And yes, the remaining debt." "Remaining," I echoed. "There's still about 80,000 outstanding." My heart started pounding. I thought insurance handled it. It handled most, not all. I stared at her, pieces shifting in my head. "Did he know?" I asked. "Yes, and that's why he changed the will." She nodded slowly. "He didn't want you drowning in bills trying to keep a house you can't afford," she said. "He thought this was protecting you. Protecting me. By not telling me. By letting me believe I'd be able to stay." "Why 48 hours?" I asked, my voice lower now, quieter. Her expression changed slightly, a flicker of something I couldn't read. "Because the buyer is ready. You said you just had someone interested." She looked at me, and for a split second, I saw guilt. "Who is it?" I asked. She didn't answer. "Lauren."
Who is the buyer? She swallowed. Evan. The name hit me like ice water. Evan. My best friend from college, the guy who used to crash on our couch during summers, the guy who knew every corner of that house, the guy who stood next to me at Dad's funeral. You're lying, I said. I'm not. Why would he? He's a developer now, she cut in. He's been looking for properties in that neighborhood. And you just happen to mention ours? He approached me. My mind started racing. When? How long had they been talking? Had he been in my house recently, already picturing it gutted? Torn down? Since when? I asked carefully. She hesitated again. Since May. May. Dad was still alive in May. You've been planning this since May? My voice was barely controlled now. It wasn't like that. It sounds exactly like that. She pushed off the counter. He made a strong offer, above market. It solves everything. It solves your problems, I said. It solves yours too. I shook my head slowly. My sister and my best friend, talking about selling my childhood home while I was sleeping in the next room, taking care of our dying father? How long have you and Evan been talking? I asked. Her silence this time was different, thicker. He and I have been in contact for a while, she said carefully. That's not what I asked. Her eyes met mine, and something inside me cracked when she said it. Since April. 2 months before the will was signed. 2 months before Dad supposedly decided to protect me. And suddenly, the betrayal didn't feel like paperwork anymore. It felt personal. I drove straight to Evan's place after leaving Lauren's condo. I don't even remember the drive. I just remember my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white, and the taste of adrenaline sitting in the back of my throat. Evan lives in a renovated warehouse loft in River North, exposed brick, industrial lighting, the kind of place that makes you feel underdressed, even in your own skin. He'd always liked the aesthetic of urban grit, even though he grew up in the same quiet suburban neighborhood I did. I didn't call ahead. I just showed up. He opened the door wearing gym shorts and a fitted black t-shirt, holding a protein shake. He looked surprised, but not confused. Dan, he said slowly. Hey. That calm tone, that controlled, careful tone. I hated it instantly. We need to talk, I said. He stepped aside without arguing. The loft smelled like expensive cologne and fresh paint. Renovation plans were spread across a large wooden table near the windows. Blueprints, property listings. I didn't want to look too closely, but I did, and I saw my address, printed neatly at the top of one of the pages. My chest tightened. How long? I asked, not even bothering with small talk. He set his drink down. How long what? How long have you and my sister been planning to buy my house? He exhaled through his nose, slow and controlled. She told you. She told me enough. He rubbed the back of his neck like he was about to explain something reasonable, something logical, something that made sense in his world. I approached her about it, he said, not the other way around. That didn't make it better. When? I asked. Spring. April? I pushed. His hesitation was small, but it was there. Yeah, he said. April. While my dad was still walking around that house, while I was still scheduling oncology appointments and arguing with insurance reps on the phone. You were already thinking about buying it while he was alive? It wasn't like that, he said quickly. I knew he was sick. I knew the house would eventually need to be handled. It's a prime lot, Dan. You know that. Prime lot. I stared at him. That's what you see when you think about that place? I asked quietly. A prime lot? He frowned. Don't twist it. I'm not twisting anything. He walked toward the window, hands on his hips, like he was trying to manage a difficult client. It's a business decision, he said. That neighborhood's blowing up. Investors are circling. If someone else buys it, they'll scrape it and put up some soulless glass box. At least I'd do something good with it. Something good. My vision went slightly right around the edges. You're talking about demolishing it, I said. I'd rebuild, he corrected. Modernize, increase value. Demolish, I repeated. He didn't argue that time. Silence stretched between us. Then I asked the question that had been crawling under my skin since Lauren said his name. How close are you two? He looked at me sharply. What? You and Lauren. His jaw tightened. Don't, he said. Don't what? Don't go there. My stomach dropped.
"You're sleeping with her." It wasn't a question. He didn't answer. That was enough. For a second, I genuinely thought I might swing at him. My hands were shaking. My heartbeat felt violent. "Since when?" I asked. He walked back toward the table, bracing his palms against it. "It's not your business." "It became my business when you started planning to buy my house with my sister." He looked up at me then, and there was something defensive in his eyes. Not guilt, not shame, just irritation at being cornered. "It started in March," he said. March. I felt like I was underwater. March was when Dad's prognosis shifted from hopeful to terminal. March was when I moved into the guest room permanently because he needed help during the night. And during that same month, my best friend started sleeping with my sister. "Were you coming over to see him?" I asked slowly. "Or to see her?" "That's not fair," he said immediately. "Answer the question." His silence was answer enough. I laughed, but it sounded broken. "You were in my house." "We weren't doing anything there," he said quickly. "Oh, that's comforting." He straightened up, frustration rising. "Look, it wasn't planned. It just happened." "It just happened," I repeated flatly. "Yeah. You just accidentally fell into my sister while my dad was dying?" His face hardened. "Watch it." "No," I said. "You watch it." The air between us felt charged. "Did he know?" "Know what?" "About you two." Another pause. "Yeah," he said quietly. The word hit like a gunshot. "He knew?" I felt dizzy. "When?" "Late May." I had to grab the back of a chair to steady myself. "So let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You start sleeping with my sister in March. You approach her about buying the house in April. You tell my dying father in May. And in July, he changes the will?" Evan didn't deny it. "It wasn't manipulation," he said. "He wanted security for her, too." "Security? So this was about protecting Lauren?" I asked. "He was worried about you," Evan said. "He thought you were going to cling to that place and never move forward." My chest felt tight, like something was squeezing it from the inside. "He told you that?" "Yeah." "And you just agreed?" "I understood," he said. I stared at him, trying to reconcile the guy I'd known since freshman year with the one standing in front of me now. We'd built a treehouse in my backyard when we were 15, snuck beers in the garage at 17, drove cross-country after graduation with no plan except to see the Pacific. He was the best man at my almost wedding 3 years ago. He knew how bad that breakup wrecked me. He was the one who helped me pack up my apartment when my fiancé left.
And now he was standing there, talking about redevelopment timelines. "Were you going to tell me?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "When? After the demolition?" He flinched slightly. I was waiting for the right time. There's no right time to tell someone you're sleeping with their sister and buying their house out from under them. He didn't respond. I looked back at the blueprints on the table. The outline of the property was there. Measurements. Notes about potential expansion. Garage relocation. Basement excavation. They'd already imagined it gone. "How much are you offering?" I asked. "Above market," he said carefully. 900. 900,000. More than I expected. "That's why she wants it fast," I muttered. "It's a good deal, Dan." "For who?" "For both of you." I looked at him for a long moment. "Did you ever think," I said quietly, "that maybe I didn't want a deal?" He didn't answer that, because in his world, everything was a deal. Everything had numbers attached. I walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" he asked. "Home," I said. He hesitated. "You can't stop this, you know." I turned slowly. "Watch me." I left before he could respond. When I got back to the house, it felt different again. Not just threatened, contaminated. Like conversations had happened in these rooms without me, decisions made, futures drafted. I walked into Dad's old bedroom and sat on the edge of his bed. "He knew," I said out loud. The words felt foreign. He knew about them. He knew about the sale. And he still didn't tell me. I stared at the framed photo on his dresser. Me and Lauren as kids, covered in mud, grinning like idiots. He had that picture up until the day he died. If he was trying to protect us, why did it feel like he chose sides? Why did it feel like I was the only one left out of the plan? My phone buzzed in my hand. A text from Lauren. "We need to finalize things tomorrow. Don't drag this out." No softness, no apology, just logistics. I looked around the room one more time. 48 hours. That's what she'd given me. But something inside me had shifted. This wasn't just about money anymore. It wasn't even just about the house. It was about the fact that the two people I trusted most had built an entire future behind my back while I was trying to hold our family together. and I wasn't done yet.